All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending the Kuumba Kickback. Welcome to the Business of Creation panel. The creative journey can be fulfilling and exciting, but what happens when you bring money into it? This panel will discuss the business side of creating, diving into monetization, managing finances, handling taxes, pitching your brand, and more. So thank you to our panelists for coming. I'm Bayana. I am a co-founder and CEO of Black Girls Create. And yeah, we can just go around and introduce ourselves. We can start with Joelle, since you're like right next to me. Oop, I think you're muted.
Sorry, great way to begin the event. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm Joelle Monique. I am an executive producer out of iHeart, where I develop podcasts for television and film and interview style all the kinds of podcasts. I'm also a culture critic, and I've written for a bunch of different publications, including Playboy and The Hollywood Reporter and others. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys about the business of creativity, because it's only something I started doing like 2 years ago, so it's still new to me. So I'm hoping to learn today too. It's going to be exciting.
Candice?
Hi, I'm Candice Antique, also Candice Wicks-Davis. I'm the founding partner of Entertainment for Equity. We are a consulting and arts production firm. We provide transformative and innovative experiences to affirm an equitable future. We do that through trainings, consulting, and events, and the production primarily of music, but also film. And I'm very excited to be here as well. I started the company in 2012. And it's, grown since then, and it's definitely been hills and valleys. So very excited to share and learn as well.
Ty?
Hi, I'm Ty Gooden. I am the contributing editor at Nerdist. I am also a freelance writer and a contractor, and I've been freelancing since 2012, so almost 10 years now. I am also what I call the CEE, which is the Chief Executive Everything at my candle business, Faith and Flames Candles.
Awesome. And last but not least, Tatiana.
Yeah, I'm Tatiana King. I'm from For All Nerds. I'm a writer, producer, and creator. So I own and am one of the hosts of the For All Nerds podcast network, if you will, the brand. We talk about geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. And we have several podcasts under our umbrella, the For All Nerds podcast, where we talk about geek and pop culture, as well as our very popular Views from the 616 podcast, which is about everything in the Marvel space, and we cover that.
Awesome. So first question, when did you decide that you wanted to profit from your creative endeavors, or to turn it into a business?
I'll just go. I can't work a desk job. I have ADHD. Being in the same place, the same time every single day was never going to be really an option. And so I knew I needed to develop a skill outside of a traditional job networking system that could support me. And the first thing I sort of fell into was writing as a critic. And so I got a very quick crash course on how to be a freelancer. And it was a whirlwind, but luckily it paid off.
Yeah, I don't know that I made a decision. I kind of stumbled into business. I got laid off from my job, and decided from there that I just couldn't work for anybody else. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just kind of fumbled and blumbled for a few years until I just got like an opportunity to do some work as a consultant. And then that kind of expanded into lots of different contracts. And then I was also, I'm a singer songwriter. So I was also doing that on the side, but I felt like I really wanted to bring those two identities together. Like I felt like they could really serve each other, but I couldn't figure out how. And so it took quite a few years to figure it out. And so it's kind of weird. It's like the company was already in full swing happening. And then I was doing my art, which wasn't really bringing in a bunch of money. There were opportunities, but music doesn't really make money in that way anymore. And so I pulled, my art into my business in that way. Yeah.
That's cool. I would say my approach is a little different. I still have a full-time job. That's actually how we help to kind of fund everything that For All Nerds does and help to fund like a lot of our activities, which has led to us opening other revenue streams. We didn't start For All Nerds with the intention of making money. It was just kind of a necessity at that point in order to bring teammates on when it comes to our engineers and social media managers and just people who want to be part of the For All Nerds family. We want to make sure we pay them or try to supplement them with something. And so while we have many other methods, and maybe we'll get into that later, like all the different ways you can potentially make money, our whole point was out of necessity. We really wanted to make sure that as we're growing the brand, as we're growing our opportunity, that we have a way to pay and compensate the people who put in work and time into our brand.
I'm definitely another person that just kind of stumbled into what I'm doing. I initially started out working in the financial field, and I was a licensed sales assistant for a financial advisor, actually 3 of them. So I was used to kind of planning, coordinating, and doing those things. I was good at it, but it didn't bring me a whole lot of joy, and it was very long hours. And I also have 2 children. So I started freelancing just to kind of supplement my income, wanted to be able to save more and do some of those things. And then it just really grew from there. It was just me pitching, making small profits at first and then kind of making some connections, doing some networking. And the next thing I know, I had a contributing writing job for a now defunct website that I won't name, but it just kind of grew from there, and ended up getting staff writing positions, started doing some different freelance and contracting opportunities that were kind of under the radar. And so it just pretty much grew. And now, of course, editor at Nerdist or whatever. So it's been a very interesting journey and something that I did not intend on doing full time at all. Like I just wanted to do it part time. And I was like, well, maybe I'll figure out something to do because I have a degree in marketing. So I was trying to break into that field and it just really wasn't working. But here I am now. And as far as the candle business that I have, I had always been making candles and soaps and doing those things just kind of for my own pleasure. And I decided to give it a shot. I was like, I'll start this business. We'll see what happens with it. I just want to do it part-time. And right now I still have the intention on just keeping it part-time. Writing is my full-time thing. That's what I do full-time. So that's pretty much how I got into it.
Tight. So cool. So yeah, it sounds like most of us kind of just ended up in this, and I was really interested because it's very similar for us at Black Girls Create. It was kind of like what Tatiana was saying, like, okay, we just want to do this, and it's like, oh no, but we want to pay people to contribute. We want to pay people to help. We want to pay ourselves at some point. Like those kinds of things. Just as you keep going, it just is like, oh no, money is important. So leading into the next question, what are some of the things you wish you'd known about starting a business before you kind of ended up here?
So many things. I wish I fully understood how to when I was freelancing, and that was my main gig, figuring out taxes was so much more complicated than it needed to be. And I thought that because I wasn't making that much money, I couldn't afford help. And so I was doing it all by myself. When a tax consultant for, as long as you're organized on your end, keeping, what did I write for? When did I get paid? Do I have all my stubs together? It's not a crippling amount of money to get started. And so I guess that's what I wish I had known, was that you can ask for help and you can you should investigate the numbers when it comes to asking for help and getting professional guidance on your way up, because it can be overwhelming when you're both trying to run the business and pay for everything and make sure the IRS isn't coming after you. So yeah, help is out there and available and not as expensive as you might think.
Yeah, I would say I knew, but I didn't know if everybody understands my drift. You don't know until you're in the middle of things. And I would say when it comes to budgeting and really understanding what it means to budget and to stick to those budgets and to be creative and resourceful. And by that, I mean, especially like if you are supplementing your passions with your full-time job, even if you feel like, oh, you make enough money to supplement that, it adds up very quickly. And even like I said, when you're doing things like trying to pay people to help, whether it's someone's doing logos, someone's doing social media, there's all these different moving parts. And it's really important to see the bigger picture and really write it out. And as I mentioned, really manage yourself when it comes to making a budget and understanding how much money really goes into things, because before you know it, you're going to be very quickly over budget, and you will be spending a lot more money than you realize. And I think in that way, that's kind of, I wish I knew before, like how much money really is required to potentially get the quality that you really want, depending on what you're working on.
Yeah, budgeting is such a huge thing, especially when I started my candle business. I'm thinking about it in small potatoes, small terms. So I didn't realize that I would get the reaction and get the amount of business flowing in as quickly as I did. And I so quickly got overwhelmed because I didn't have enough inventory in stock. And then you realize that you go from just making things for yourself and just doing it on a very nuclear level to suddenly, okay, there are other people that are invested in this, and they're depending on me to get things out and get them out in a timely fashion. I have social media that I have to keep up with. I have to make sure that I'm, keeping up with all my receipts and making sure that all of my tax stuff is straight, making sure that my website is okay and that it's functioning well. And when things go down, then I have to, pause what I'm doing and make sure that all of that is fixed. So that was, for the candle business, just such a huge thing. Same thing with, like Joelle was saying, with freelancing. When I first started freelancing and I broke off and branched off and did it full time, I had no idea how to really keep my budget in line. And I thought that I had to do the taxes myself. I thought it would be too expensive to hire a tax preparer. But I mean, the cost in the grand scheme of things, in terms of like time and headache and sweat, that I was going to end up owing the IRS something, was so like, it was so better to just get somebody in to be able to do that. And also a financial planner. And that's so crazy for me to say, because I worked in financial advising. I understood the importance of having a financial planner, but I thought that myself that, well, I need to be making more. I need to be doing more. But you can use that help and use that advice at any level that you're at. And a lot of times, if you're with a credit union or with a bank or something, you can actually get access to the advice and you're not paying a fee for it. So, I mean, a lot of people think that you do have to pay that person to be able to do that, and you don't. So getting people in that have expertise in certain areas, a tax preparer, a budgeting person, and also just connecting to other people who are doing similar things. I felt like I was going at it on my own, and I didn't have to do that. And a big part of what's changed the game for me and really helped me grow, in particular with my writing, was when I joined Black Girls Create and became a part of that community and began to tap in with other people who were doing the same thing that I was doing, getting advice from them, understanding how people who have been doing it before me, how they did it and did it well. Like, it is so important to be able to connect with other people who are on the same path and same journey that, that you're on, that you're trying to pursue.
Very true. I agree with all of that. I think because like I stumbled into business, I was quickly like trying to set up the things that make you legitimate. So I was like, oh, LLC, partnership, like all this stuff. And then I did a bunch of stuff wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I made a bunch of mistakes and spent money that I didn't need to spend. So I think in hindsight, it's just the nature of how the business started. But in hindsight, I would have taken my time on those things and just like, let me actually go talk to somebody. So I totally resonate with everybody. Like, let me go talk to somebody about how to do this, or what's the most appropriate thing for me at this stage in my business to even have in place. How do I make sure I have the right insurance? Do I need all this insurance for what I'm doing? So all of these like things that I was just like, I have this work coming in and I have no infrastructure for it, made me really nervous. I'm a Virgo too, so I needed to have my stuff, you know what I'm saying, in order. So I was doing all kinds of just like, I ordered this EIN number and I submitted this document and they do the same thing and it costs money, all kinds of things like that. So I think slowing down and really like being intentional about what you're doing, the business is going to be there. So you don't have to feel like you're going to, if I don't have this stuff right this minute, I'm going to lose it. just take your time and like get advice and make the right move so you don't waste so much time and money.
Yeah. So everyone in the comments is feeling red at the moment. Everyone is like, oh no. So sort of going off of that, what's something or one thing that creators should consider when thinking about monetizing their work?
Starting from the beginning and understanding why, right? Like a lot of people just say, oh, I want to make money, I want to do this. Okay, for why? For what purpose? What are you trying to achieve? Understand that part of the side of the equation before you just try to just start doing all these things, because similar to what Candice said, you're going to start doing activities that are going to take up time. Time is money. You're going to start submitting, paying for things that you may not need, or doing things and spending efforts in places where it may not make sense for you at that point. So I would say definitely the first step is to really understand what are you trying to achieve? What is your end goal? What is the purpose? What is the reason? As Cardi B said, what was the reason? Right.
And building off of that,
yeah,
I was just gonna say, like, you're at some point you're gonna get exhausted with the work, and you're gonna want to throw your hands up and be like, I don't know why I chose this. I'm tired. I'm not making as much money as I hope to. And this is everybody's journey in the beginning. It's just a lot. You have to be comfortable with failing a lot in order to get comfortable with doing what you're trying to do, right? And the more comfortable you get with it, the more success you're going to have, because you've been at it longer, because you're more experienced. But in those times when you're feeling like lost and unsure, you can always go back to that original reason. If you've like cemented it and understand why you're on this journey, you can be like, okay, well, that's the reason, because this is the one thing I can do. That was my reason. I was like, you're not going back to an office, like stay the course.
Yeah.
Right. And having that why makes you more judicious about what you accept and what you pass on. Because just because you're new to something and you're trying to build a business, whether it's a freelancing business, a contracting business, it doesn't mean that you have to partner with everyone. Every opportunity is not for you. So if you stick with your why, then you become more judicious about the things that you accept, the things that you have to pass on, and what you're allocating your time, your energy, your effort, because it's all, there's all a cost. There's a time cost, there's a mental cost, a physical cost, an emotional cost. So sticking with that why, you always go back to that. Anytime there's any decision that needs to be made, anytime somebody wants to try to partner with you to do anything, does this fit into the pathway that I'm trying to get towards? And if it doesn't, it makes it you okay and comfortable with letting that go.
Yeah, planning. I mean, for the Virgos out there, I feel you. I plan. It's even if you deviate, at least you have a plan to deviate from. And you have like something that's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like Ty was saying, like, no, this doesn't make sense. And I can tell you that I spent a lot of time and energy on some stuff that I would be like, are you kidding me? Like I would never take that work, but at the time, I think there was an anxiety and about like bringing in enough revenue, because this was it. Like I didn't have a job, like this was it. And so I just was like, I need to take whatever I can get so that I can make rent. But really it was just undermining like my skills and undermining the way I felt about myself, and the way that, what I perceived the business to be was being undermined by doing, really silly things for not nearly enough money. So I think there's that, and there might be opportunities that are not monetarily a lot, but that are like right in the lane and that would take you really far. So it's worth really understanding your purpose. I think the way Tatiana was saying, like knowing why, and then, measure it up against that. And if it doesn't jive with it and it doesn't offer you either the income you need or the opportunity to get somewhere, then let it go. You don't need it.
Candice, I can't agree more. Like the entire concept of knowing when to work for free and when to work for a little, it's like, it's so valuable. And again, I think you're going to have to fail and crash and burn in order to learn the difference along the way. When people are first starting, I'm like, just do it. Just do whatever. Like figure out what it is you're trying to do. But after 6 months of that, maybe even 3, you should be well enough aware to know, okay, this is what I can handle. This is the work I like to do. This is the direction I'm going in. And once you have that whittled down, you might, like, I worked for a year and a half for free for a company. I was podcasting with them 3 to 5 times a night. It was exhausting. It was grueling. I signed up for all of it. They didn't ask me to do anything. They made very clear no money was ever going to come from it. But I knew that there were a ton of people coming in and out of that building who were going on to do incredible things, work for major companies I wanted to work for. I could become friends with them, get to know them. We could be colleagues. There was a lot of opportunity for me to grow and get comfortable on the mic. When you're going live and you have to, steer an entire conversation or be a good support for whoever's leading that conversation, it was like experience that is so invaluable. But when I realized I can be making money off of this, when I'm seeing other people at my skill level go on and do really well, that was when I was like, okay, well, it's no longer time to work for free anymore. I've learned the skills. I've gotten everything I can out of this opportunity. And I think once that light bulb goes off and you're like, I'm not getting anything else out of this opportunity, that's when you know it's good to graduate and you can start using all the resources and knowledge you've gained from that experience to go on and be great somewhere where they're going to pay you.
Yes. So speaking of money, there are lots of different ways to find funding. Like some folks have Patreon, some use donations, sponsors, direct sales. All of those can seem daunting. How did you figure out which was right for your business and like your business model?
In the words of the great and rest in peace Jazz Fly, do it scared. So whether or not you think it's going to work out, not really sure. There's a couple of things you can do. Learn how it works, like literally go to those sites, figure out how those platforms work in the sense of places like Patreon, or if you're going to do a GoFundMe or whatever it is, because there's plenty of platforms out there. And also seek out support in people in your space. Seek out support with people who are in the same lanes as you, friends. Look at people like Joelle and Ty and all these other people. Like these are people who I've also like had conversations with at some point about different aspects of the business. And I just think it's important that you just reach out for help. Also, sometimes defer to people who know more than you. That's the best place to start. And then, as I mentioned, just start. Just do it scared. Like, have a starting point, understand like the baseline of what you need, what you want, and then build from there. There's really, especially when it comes to fundraising, there's really no wrong way to do it unless you're like just stealing money outright. But I mean, especially with Patreons, like that's something that it's meant to be buildable, meaning you can start out giving one basic level of ways that people can join your Patreon. And then as time goes on, you can add to it. You can enhance it as you learn more about how the platform works and what works for your brand and your business. You can then make adjustments. And I think that's the most important thing people have to understand. Like nothing is static, especially when it comes to like the fundraising space. There's different ways to go about it. Just like if you're building a podcast, for example, the podcast you hear in 2 months may not be the one you start with. So I just think people have to understand, be flexible enough to make those adjustments and just get started. There's nothing worse than not moving forward, right? Like don't let yourself be in that analysis paralysis situation. Go get started, just try.
Mm-hmm. I think you gotta get in top ramen mode. I don't really know another way to say it. Fried noodles on fire, get them boiling. I always think about a friend of mine, Mark Bamuti Joseph. I was like, you're all in your art and I don't have nothing going on. I don't know what to do. He was like, just start somewhere. Like Tatiana's saying, just start with whatever you got, whether it's like one song that you recorded in your basement and just get that out there. Whatever it is, just do something. And so I think there's a lot of value to that. Like just get real DIY with yours. You never know who's going to see that and who's going to recognize its greatness and want to invest in you because of that. I also think, I never did like a funding, like crowdfunding. It's always been like sales. And so I was, that's a part of why I was in such desperation in the beginning to get as many clients as I could so I could pay the bills. And I also have done, I think learning is super important, like going to these classes, going to, the 8 factors for successful business, there are lots of organizations that are all about helping, small businesses. So I would go and find out. And then if you have to get down with a loan, then get down with the loan. Just make it manageable because they'll offer you hella money, and then you're like, yes, because you don't have any, and then you got to remember that that's a loan and you got to pay it back. So I always would be like, I just, whatever I need, just that amount, something that I know I can pay back within a couple of months or so. And then that kind of helps us to grow the business. But don't take more than what you need. Just really start with what you got. Everybody started with what they got. So just start there, and it will build. If you believe in it enough and you have a plan and you understand the purpose of it, other people understand it too.
Yeah, I'm working on a client-based model as well. And what was really difficult for me early on was figuring out a price point. Like, what is a fair amount for my time? I knew what I needed to afford the space I wanted to live in. Right? I knew groceries and all of that. I got that in order. But then, I was talking to folks in my industry, and the numbers were wild all over the place, and not at all based on like experience, or it was really hard to pinpoint. So what worked for me eventually was sort of talking to people who were white men. To be honest, like, if Black women have your back and everything, that's perfect. Like, that's your community. That's who you go to. That's who's supporting you. But white men can get you in the door with the right folks, and they're going to tell you their secrets, right? So I charge what a white guy charges, and I often go after very similar clients. And if they're not interested in working with me, that's fine. I'm good over in my corner. But if you can get like folks who are very high up, who, and again, you want to charge not what necessarily the people next to you are making, but the people where you want to go are making. Because I mean, there's going to be a difference in what people expect in quality of work, and there's going to be a difference in what you expect from your clients, right? So for me, I set a very clear timeline up front. I let them know what I can do. I try to be succinct in not only my abilities, but in what I'm going to deliver to them, so that it's all very neat and tidy and they're not questioning it. And we all know what's going forward on the same page. And once you have that, then you should be able to demand, not sky's the limit, but at the very least what Doug over there is making. So that's how I sort of figured out my price points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going outside of your scope and literally talking to white people and seeing what they're paying white people, because we all know, especially in the writing space or whatever, that there's a great disparity in what we're making and what people who are not, Black women are making or whatever. But as far as when I do my contract work and everything, it's me really getting the client to understand that what you're not paying for is not the amount of time that it takes for me to complete a project, but it's the quality of work that you're getting. So you're paying for my experience, because I've been doing these types of things for almost 10 years. So you're not necessarily saying, okay, well, you can get this done in a fifth of the time that someone else can get this done. No, you're paying for that experience of me being able to not only get it done fast, but for it to be quality work, something that we don't have to go back through and rehash over again and stuff. It's a one and done time thing. So, I mean, that's really you knowing what you do well, being confident in what you do, and being able to express that clearly. As far as other things I pursued and kind of like raising funds and stuff, I really haven't tried Patreon or any of those things. That's kind of like it's a bit of a shadow spot for me, because I just kind of get support in random things, even with my candle business. Last year for Juneteenth, I just put it out there that, hey, I'm getting ready to start a business. It's launching in July. Anyone who follows me and has followed my work and that, I've supported and stuff, I think that's a big key too, is also being supportive of other people, because I do believe that gets reciprocated back to you. So I put it out there, and I mean, the amount of support that I got was wowing. It was more than enough for me to be able to finish up the final bits of budgeting gaps that I needed to be able to get my candle business started on the day that I wanted to launch it. But a lot of people said, I supported you because you've done this for me. You've cheered me on. You've supported the things that I've done. You've written about things that, things that I've pursued. I've always made sure that I've tried to support other people, because I think that's so critical to being able to boost and launch the things that you need to do. And it's not the reason that you do it, but it's just a very nice side effect. That comes from, that comes from being a supportive person.
Yeah. Let me add, because Ty, you just reminded me of something. Let me add that it's also important to be resourceful in all the different avenues of if you're trying to raise money. So it may not work. It may not make sense for every business, but for example, in places like for people like Ty, where they have audience that they're constantly writing to, you may want to do things like create newsletters. For example, there is a feature on Twitter where you can connect your own personal newsletter to your followers, and that newsletter, of course, you can set it up so it's a paid newsletter. Say it's like $1 a month or something like that, similar to like the New York Times. Could be free. Also, you can you can attach your tip jar to your Twitter. A lot of people have that feature available now. So you can automatically just attach whether it's your PayPal or your Cash App or whatever service you use to encourage your followers or your community to assist in that way. So I just think in that way, it's good to be innovative as well. Like, look at all the different avenues you have on all these different platforms, whether you have a great community on Twitter, maybe you are on Clubhouse, you have a great community. Clubhouse has a way to, or even Spotify, if you're in the Spotify green room stuff. Like, there's ways to tip people directly through the apps. And if you're in a space where you become or you position yourself as a subject matter expert, maybe you are the subject matter expert on candles. People always think about you first, and that way they're going to your page anyway. Make it easy for them to then turn their support also into dollars.
Ooh, one other thing that just reminded me of grants. Don't sleep on grants.
Yeah.
There are grants out there, for artists they'll give you 10, 15 grand just because you're an artist and the project that you're writing about is compelling. So don't sleep on that. You don't have to be a huge 501c3 nonprofit to get grant money to start something. So I just wanted to make sure to highlight that too. That's one of the ways that we pulled the art into the company was through granting. And so through the process of getting that money, I was able to actually pay, because I'm like, we need to pay artists if we expect as artists to be paid. So I'm like, I'm going to make sure that I take care of the artists that are contributors to these projects. So I was able to do that. I was able to produce this, really, big project because of that money and those resources. Then you don't have to pay it back. And it gives you just a relationship to these institutions that have resources too.
Yeah. So talking about, we've kind of talked also about, like Ty mentioned, support, like building networks. What is the value of that? And how have y'all gone about building these networks? That was loud. How have you gone about building these networks while like building your business, and what has been the value of that?
Sure. So Ty and I worked for the same website early, and that has pretty much remained the core support network. I tell everyone, get a good group chat. Get a good group chat where you can vent your frustrations in a safe space, where you can get good advice when you need it, where you can, pitch ideas like, I'm not quite sure about this or that. Just, folks who are in the industry that you trust, that you've kind of gotten along with, like, start the group chat yourself if you need to. I think everybody who's working independently is looking for support, and almost no one will turn you down just to be like, hey, you want to like bounce ideas off of each other? I would say when you're doing that, look across the aisle and not up. So you want to do with folks who are at your level, who are actually like friends or at least, like solid acquaintances. If you go to somebody who's been working in the industry for a long time, whatever your specific industry is, you want to come with solid questions. That's more of an interview, a meeting. The thing you can do to kill one of those meetings, like, I just want to pick your brain. Nobody has time for brain picking. It's exhausting, and it doesn't promise to lead anywhere. But if I'll take script writing for one. If you're like, listen, this is my 8th draft, it's already seen 3 eyes, and I want to get it in front of the right people, but I don't have representation yet. What do I do? Then you take that above. But if you're still working on your script and you're like, I'm just not sure about how it's like coming out, go to the people next to you and ask. And then when they come to ask you, be available. Make sure that you're reciprocating all of that love and support that you're getting. Because it's important. It makes people feel special and valued, and you guys are going to hopefully grow together. I mean, you never know where someone's going to be in a year, in 3 years, and if they know you and they're familiar with your work and they know how hard you're working, the chances of them reaching back out to you are pretty high, because people want to work with people they know they can trust. So yeah, that's sort of where I started, with that group of people. And then podcasting every day, was meeting a lot of people, working with a lot of folks, got to see, who was talented and where. And that's how I got my job at iHeart. Actually, I started as a researcher for a friend's podcast. She had been picked up. It was in their second year. It was a little stagnant, and they were like, we need somebody who can bring in good facts and boost it. Then iHeart saw my notes, and they're like, oh, can you produce? And that was it. I got a job like 3 weeks later. It was wild.
I'll jump in. It's kind of a continuation of what I was also mentioning, just about building that community. That community is so important. And whether you want to call them fans, supporters, whatever, it's really community, because those are the people who are going to uplift you. Again, those are the people who are going to put the money in your coffers. Those are the people who are going to share your, whether it's your service or the stuff that you provide, the goods you provide, like those are the number one. And so it's important. I have mentioned things like newsletters. It's important to independently build that community. And by that, I mean, not just rely on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you're doing this, because as we all saw, last week or the week before, what happens when those spaces go down? You've lost everybody unless you've built your own independent space for them along with it. So that's why things like email lists are so important, especially if you're selling some type of good. And again, I would stress how important it is to make sure that those people who are supporting you, they realize how important they are to you. Constantly giving them that feedback, reciprocating the love, that's important as well. And the reason why is because, as I mentioned, like when things come crashing down around you, you want to have people who will lift you up as well. I would stay less off the haters and the people who don't care about you, and direct more of your energies and attention to the people who are saluting you and putting you up there, because those are people who are going to continue to push you. And then those are people who are going to share with others and grow the audience, the community, the fans, the support network, whatever you want to call it. I just think that it's important to focus in on that, and also make sure that they understand how much you appreciate, how much you love, and give them opportunities to interact with you and interact with your brand or your services or whatever it is, in order to just further that space and just grow it more. And when you do that, you make it very fun. You make it like, you're building your own little township of people, Joelle, Monique Inc. Like, I think that when you look at it in that way, then I think other people really adhere to that, and they gravitate to that. And you are better off than you were before.
Yeah, I mean, everything that's happened has been a relationship. My first contract was somebody who knew somebody who recommended me, and then that opened up this door, and then working with them opened up that door. It's everything. We haven't even really had like a formal marketing campaign in the 9 years that we've been in business. It's all been word of mouth, people who have experienced their services, experienced our pieces, our events, and then told somebody else, and then they called us. So that's everything, which is why you have to protect that part, like, protect your reputation, like it's money. Your reputation is actually your money. And so, when you're entering into these partnerships with people, just making sure, Beyonce said, the best revenge is your paper, right? Be gracious. It's good. Even if somebody does something, it's cool. I'm not going to burn this bridge because I don't know who you're talking to. I don't know who you're having dinner with. I don't know who you go to happy hour with. I don't know. So I might not mess with you no more in that way, but I'm not going to burn that bridge, because relationships are so, so, so important to this work. And having a vibrant newsletter, I saw in the chat, somebody was like, no news, they don't have a newsletter. It's okay. Build your newsletter today. Okay. Because that newsletter is everything. It's like your direct line to people for you to be able to speak to them directly. So absolutely do invest time and energy into that, because like Tatiana said, when the platform goes down, that's what you got. You got your newsletter, you got X amount of emails that you can send out to people. And absolutely we give all of our clients, whether they're former clients, current clients, prospective clients, they all get free tickets to our events. We're always sending them like, hey, how you doing? We just want to offer you this free ticket to see Gloria Ladson Billings in conversation with so-and-so. We just want to offer you this because we appreciate you. So you want to always be nurturing relationships. Relationships are everything. Relationships will get you to a room years earlier than your work. So you have to make sure you nurture those things. That's super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of networking within your industry, it starts on a nuclear level first. So making sure that you're consistent, that when you're partnering and working with people, that you're timely and that you show that you can get things done. And, you know, really making sure that you're a person that's showing that you have good ethical foundation. So that will automatically get your name bounced around. That's how I've gotten every job that I've gotten within the writing industry has been through word of mouth. I haven't really had to apply for anything because people will recommend me to things and say, I know somebody that would be perfect for that. That was how I got on with Nerdist, because I had a relationship with an editor there already. We had already worked together at another website. He already knew that I was good and solid and stuff. And boom, you're right there. I didn't even get the position, but I had a position created for me. So the work that you do and the way that you approach things, it will make room for you. It's like they used to say in church, how your gifts will make room for you if you're approaching and you're doing it right. And then also, again, it's all about supporting other people and everything as well. So big up in other people when they're doing things, cheerleading them on when they have things going on and stuff. It makes them want to reciprocate that energy right back to you. So, you know, not just depending on other people to always kind of uplift you and you know, and do the things for you or whatever, but you also have to be there and be a support system for other people. And if you have leverage in any kind of way, use that leverage in whatever way you can. If you're writing for a website and you get to do any kind of piece, say you're doing even something as simple as a list-based post about different creators and stuff like that out there. Okay, what creators are you putting on that list? Are you putting all the popular people that people see all the time, all the white people that people see all the time, or are you reaching out and putting Black and other people of color on that list or whatever, to make sure that you're using your platform to give them a platform? So I mean, that's so vital and critical. Finding community, whether you're doing a group chat, whether you're going out to panels, participating in things like this, you know, Kuumba Kickback. I mean, you've got people that are literally chatting in the live and getting a chance to know each other, getting a chance to network and stuff. So being a part of networking things is so vital. And then as far as like connecting with loyal customers, or, you know, if you're running that type of business where you have a customer, I mean, I'm always sending handwritten notes to people that buy stuff from my candles. I'm always sending out discounts and stuff to them. You know, when they send me pictures and intimate things like that, I'm posting it. And then I'm actually just replying back to every single person and saying, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. I know that a billion people sell candles, right? And out of all of these people in the world, you're choosing to support me. And I really appreciate that. So right now I'm in the process of building a customer loyalty program where people can be able to go in and do regular orders and stuff, and they're able to get discounted prices and get other freebies and everything like that. But now that I'm a year into the business and that I've got my solid foundation in my ground, my main goal is how can I make people want to support me, and how can I make that a two-way street where I feel like, you know, if they've got something going on, maybe I can reciprocate back for them. So that, I mean, that's pretty much it, or whatever. It's just being a person of your word. Making sure that you're connecting with people in your industry and supporting them. And then if people are supporting you, really just letting them know how much you truly appreciate it.
Tight. We had a question in the chat. What % of your time goes into content versus business admin stuff? And what does that look like?
I want to say it's 50-50, but I've never actually crunched the numbers. It feels 50-50 if I think about it. Like, I put a lot of work into developing my shows, and but also so much of like development as a producer is also like talent management and organizing schedules and reaching out to marketing. And so I would say probably 50-50 on my end.
Yeah, I think for me, it's maybe 50-50, which is actually way too much of a percentage. The business admin stuff has got to go. And that's why it's also so important to delegate and also to build a team, because I'm talent production, right? So, you know, I do my own producing, but there's other people's projects or my own, and I'm also talent. So in many ways, a lot of that design stuff gets in the way. And again, this all will depend on what your personal business is about. But, you know, especially if you're in the space that I'm in, it's really important to delegate as much as possible and to get other people to do certain things. Like earlier on, we were talking about taxes and the financial part of things. And, you know, that's all part of the business admin. And the more you're able to give that to other people to take care of, whether they're, you know, they're experts or just better than you in that space or whatever, just someone who is confident who can handle that, I would say let them do that. Because when you try to, again, if it makes sense for you, when you try to grab onto too many things and say, well, I'll just do it, you will get burned out. You absolutely will. So with me, my whole thing is actually moving it off my plate as much as possible. And that's why we like to bring in more people to the fold to try to help us with that space. Like right now, we're looking for someone in the PR space because that's something that's difficult for us to focus on when we're doing so many other different things. Right now, yeah, just to answer the question, yeah, right now it's 50-50, but it's just too much.
I feel that.
Boy, like having as far as my sellable goods business, my candle business is, I'm probably spending about 70% of my time doing admin things because it's only me. So, I mean, I have that very, very small pocket of me actually making the good, which is the part that you, of course, enjoy the most or whatever. But I also have to cure that. I also have to package things. I also have to get out and mail things. I also have to keep up with my website and do all of that other stuff. I definitely still, like I said before, have somebody that's doing my taxes and everything like that. But because, you know, and a lot of times if you're starting a business, especially if you're selling goods in the very beginning, it's going to be just you doing it. So you have to, you know, really think about that. It's like, okay, I may be doing this thing and I may be very passionate about it. But once you cross that line between, okay, I'm passionate about this and I'm doing this for me because it's something I love so much, and you go across that line and you start making it business, that something you love so much before the whole pie is you kind of diving into that passion. You cross that line, suddenly that passion part, that actual creativity part becomes a very small slice of that entire pie, because you have to think about all of the other things you have to do to facilitate the process and keep it running. You're not Bath and Body Works where you know you've got 100 people in a warehouse that can produce things for you on a mass level. You're having to do it all on a very, very small scale, where it may be you, and it may be, if you can afford it, a very small staff, and it will take time usually to get there. Usually a couple of years, depending on what industry and stuff you're in. So yeah, I spend a lot of time with that, doing admin and stuff. With writing, it's a bit different now because I do it full time. So I actually work for a company and I don't really have to worry about that. But as far as my freelance and contracting stuff, I do spend most of my time actually creating, actually doing the work, because the only other thing I have to worry about outside of that is taxes, and I do have a tax person.
Yeah, I think I started off as a sole proprietor, so I was doing, like Ty said, CEE, doing everything, a lot of it wrong. And then as things picked up, so we will have been in business for 10 years next year. So as things pick up, you kind of get to this place where you're going to be making more money, but not necessarily enough to give yourself a raise and hire someone. So I got to a certain point, and then I kept my salary kind of flat and hired someone to be like an operations manager. And then this last year I promoted her to chief of operations. And then my husband came on as my business partner in 2017. So it's like three of us that are holding down everything. But the business stuff at one point was like, I would say 70% of my time was spent on that and the contracts and W-9s and making sure that all the legal stuff was together. Now the COO does all of that, and that's been super helpful because I can step away from it. But when you're first starting out, you're in there, bloody knuckles, scratching and surviving. Okay. And then you get a little bit more money and you can start paying other people to do stuff. We're going to be bringing on someone else too to do some more facilitation and to take that stuff off of my plate. So it's like over time, as you get more money, more clients and stuff, you'll be able to delegate it. But in the beginning, you're doing a lot of, like Ty was saying, a lot of the stuff that was not why you wanted to do this in the first place. You're going to be spending a lot of time doing stuff that you don't know how to do, that you don't do well, that you don't want to do, but you have to do it, because if you're going to make it to the point where you're able to focus on the thing you love, because there is a point where you get to, I feel like now I focus more on the stuff that I enjoy doing than I did at first, but it's been a long time.
So you have to realize that curve is there too. So, I mean, a lot of people say they want to take something that they're passionate about or that they're good at and they want to turn it into a business. You don't necessarily have to do that with everything that you're good at. Just because you're good at something, you can bake one hell of a cake, but it's one thing to bake a cake and it's another thing to have a bakery and have to do that full time. And again, like you said, I mean, you've been in business for 10 years. So there's a curve with being able to get there. And you have to realize that you've got to do that uphill battle, that uphill climb. And that a lot of that climbing is not going to be you spending your time doing the thing that you're focused on. And some gifts, it's okay to keep to yourself. So, I mean, that's a big determining factor too, is just because you're really good at something, and just because other people say, oh, you bake a good cake, you should start a bakery, doesn't mean that you necessarily have to let that get into your head that you should pursue this thing. It's okay to keep some of your gifts and some of your talents and your passions and stuff to yourself. And it's like Tatiana said further back in the conversation, it's going back to when you want to start something, what is your ultimate why?
Yeah.
And if I know all of that sounds like super daunting, if you're, some of you I'm sure have already like started and you're like, what? Oh no, it's so stressful. It's definitely stressful. I would say one thing you can hold on to is learning all of these jobs is going to make you the most compassionate boss later. Like understanding how all of these things work and what are the stressors and, you know, the time restraints, like understanding how all of that works is not only going to help you hire good people because you'll be able to check them and be like, oh, okay, no, this person really knows what they're talking about. But it's also going to help you like just be a compassionate human being to be like, oh, I remember doing all of that and it was exhausting. Like, here's that extension you need, or here's, you know, or I can help pick up some of the slack, you know, or I'll make sure we hire someone else to help you with that because I know how hard it is to do it by yourself. Like it's all valuable if you're able to make it through. If it's something you do find you're like, I don't love this part, but I can still do this in order to make my business thrive. Eventually it's going to be like just so helpful to know these things.
Yes. And that's why I love working with freelancers, because I understand, I understand where they've been and I understand what they need from an editorial perspective. I understand what they need from an editor or whatever. I understand they need somebody that's compassionate, somebody that, you know, is really going to take the time and help them work through some things. I understand that deadlines have to be moved. I understand that you want your money on time. So I'm going to get you, you know, we're going to make sure we get things rolling and make sure that you get your money on time. That's such a good point.
And knowing what it takes to do it. Like when you do hire somebody to do the stuff, if you've never even tried to do it, how will you know if the quality is on point? You won't know. You'll have to 100% put this chunk of your business in somebody else's hands, right? So you want to actually be in touch with all of the operations too of what you're doing. And honestly, you know, I don't love a lot of the stuff, but I really love the freedom that doing, you know, having this business affords me, you know. So it's like you're going to put in that time anyway somewhere. Why not put it in on your dream rather than somebody else's? So you know, it's tough. Sometimes I'm like, Lord have mercy. But every time I'm able to hand off a piece of it that I don't have to do anymore, it's so rewarding because I know what I put in. I know the scratching and surviving that I did to get to this point. So, yeah.
Right. So we have like 5 more minutes. So I want to wrap up with this last question. What are some useful tools or resources that you recommend burgeoning entrepreneurs like check out?
Canva is $12.99 a month. If you do not have Photoshop skills, me, but you have a lot to market, also me. It is such an easy to use tool. It's inexpensive. They can do everything top down, like social media stuff, poster stuff, newsletter stuff, like whatever you need help designing your logo, they got that on lock. It's been a literal godsend for me and all of the different projects I'm trying to launch. And they have a free version. So if you're like, I'm not solvent enough to be paying for yet another subscription, use their free stuff. Got me through for a long time before I decided to upgrade. So definitely check out Canva, Canva.com.
Yeah, Canva's a great one. I was going to say anything you can use for free for the free 99 is going to be your best friend. If you're talking about things like if you want to be a podcaster, look at tools like Audacity, Audacity. That's free audio, basically audio editing software. It's been free for 100 million years, and it's absolutely top notch. You don't have to go get Audition or Adobe. You don't have to go pay for all of these expensive audio workstations. You can get that for the free. We mentioned places like Canva. If you want, for example, if you want places where you can, in more resourcefully, get help and to delegate certain tasks, maybe you want someone to answer emails for you. You can look at places like Fiverr, where you can get things like digital assistants. How you set that up and what your comfortability level is, that's on you. But and also Fiverr is a great place if you want to find places for people to do things like create logos for you, help with any of your visual components of your business, things like that. And then we mentioned them at the top, but all of the fundraising places you can use and all of the free and new tools and features that are available on the social media platforms you may use. Again, the Patreons, the Indiegogos, particularly if you're doing like fundraising, look at places where you can still get partial payment. Like even if your project doesn't get fully funded, you can still get some money. That's why I like the Indiegogos. So I would say that. And not being afraid to ask, just ask for help. That's the number one big thing. People just forget, just putting your, what they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Put yourself out there. Be like, hey, yo, I need help on this. Hey, yo, I need $20 to get this Canva. For example, I need $20 to get this Canva subscription. Can each of y'all just throw me $1? Like, this is what I'm trying to do. And my thing is, if you're doing it with people who love and support you, they're going to be like, yeah, I got you. And for all you know, one person might take care of it completely. And that could lead you to selling a project that then funds you for the rest of the year, or so on and so forth. So I would say try those.
Yeah, I think getting a scheduling app if you're a service-based business is going to be everything. It saves you so much time. I think I've gotten a couple of contracts because they didn't have to go back and forth trying to schedule the discovery call with us. So I would say like the scheduling app we use, Squarespace scheduling. It'll put it on your calendar. It generates a Zoom link for you and sends reminders. So it just saves so much time. I would say DocuSign if you're doing contracts because you're booking speakers and all of that. Don't be sending that contract back and forth, child. Just get you a DocuSign account. Get it done. It'll be done. It'll be sitting there for you. So all of like the ways that you can automate some of the things that you're doing manually are going to help you a lot. Canva is my jam. Love Canva. All of those things. Trello. If you have a team of folks, Trello is awesome because it's it's a project management platform. We use that like crazy. Also Aveza, when we have outside folks that are working on projects for us, it's like a time tracker and they can submit their invoices through it. So you want to look at like, there's so many platforms. There's something that does everything you can imagine in this damn world. I'm telling you, if you just dig and look for those things, but there's something that does everything. So if you can find the right match for you, go in on that thing and leave that part. You don't even have to hire anybody to do. You set it up and it does the thing. So I would say all of that. And then I love ask for help. Just ask. If they say no, it's fine. It's fine. Like they said no. Nothing has changed about your reality if they say no. If they say yes, a lot of things can change.
I'm laughing in the chat. Someone said the asking that's going to end them. I understand. Like that no is like a dagger to the heart, but you have to learn. I had to learn. It is not the end of your life. If they say no, okay, girl, bye. I'll just go ask somebody else, or I'll just get it done. You have to. Joelle had said it perfectly earlier many times. Like and no, it's not essentially a failure, but it's on those lines, right? Things are not going to go the way you plan. Things are not going to go the way you want them to. People are going to say no. You have to be cognizant and just accept that part. That's part of the process. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, everyone already said really, really great resources and everything. And a lot of them I use myself. I use Canva. I've used Fiverr before, all of that stuff. Wave is really good. And it's also free if you're looking for invoicing software, and that'll take and really help track everything that you've done throughout the year. So that way, if you're not a spreadsheet person, Wave is really great for you to be able to use, because it'll have everything in there lined up for you. So that way you're ready for your tax person, whether that's you or someone else when it's time to do taxes. If you are a contractor, whether you're, a writer or not, Black Freelance is such a wonderful, wonderful platform and a great resource. There are all sorts of jobs there. They have an entire community there, and they actually break it up and divide it up depending on what you do and what you contract in. So that way you're able to also network with people, but people post jobs there. And if you post your information there, a lot of time people will reach out to you. So that way you don't have to go looking for work can come to you. If you're a writer, Writers of Color on Twitter is always posting jobs, and they will definitely let you know when stuff is paid and when it's unpaid and where it's located and how much you can make there. So I just wanted to throw those last three in: Wave, using blackfreelance.com, and Writers of Color on Twitter.
Tight. Well, that's time. Thank you all for joining and for giving all this knowledge. Can we go around real quick and just let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
I'm Joelle Monique. You can find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique. That's JoelleMonique. And yeah, check me there to find out. I have a lot of upcoming projects. You can listen to Fake Doctors, Real Friends on iHeart. I also produce a Scientology Fair Game podcast with Leah Remini and Mike Rinder. Tons of stuff. Follow me on Twitter, and I will tell you about it.
I'm at Candice Antique, and also at Edutainment for Equity. But if you go to our website, e4econsulting.com, you'll find all of our stuff there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really thankful for being on this panel with everyone. Thanks, Candice, Joelle, Ty, Bayana. For me, you can find me at Tatiana King, TatianaKing, all over the interwebs on that. But you also find us or me through For All Nerds, the podcast about geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. For All Nerds, all over the interwebs. You can also find Views from the 616. That's the MCU Marvel focused podcast. Views from 616. And we on every podcast platform imaginable. Just look for All Nerds.
Everyone's been so dynamic, and I've just learned so much today being on the panel. So thank you all for allowing me to share the space with you. I can be found on Twitter at Ty Gooden, TAIGOODEN. You can always find a whole bunch of stuff that I'm writing right now at Nerdist. So just check for things there. As far as my candle business, you can find me on Twitter at Flames Candles and on Instagram at Faith and Flames Candles.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Remember, these panels are recorded. So if you missed something or want to come back in the future, you can find all these panels on the Black Girls Create YouTube channel. Our next panel, Redefining Historical Fiction and Romance Representation Ourselves, will happen in about 10 minutes. So, go get some water, go grab a snack, and you can chat with folks in Discord and check out our virtual artist alley. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks.